I'm Norm Easterbrook, Director of RiverCenter here in Columbus, Georgia. For more than a year, the COVID-19 crisis has been ravaging our entertainment, arts, and cultural communities. The day that we can once again welcome audiences is now in sight, and we are eagerly planning how to restart the arts in Columbus, Georgia. You are an important part of our success, and you can help us get started even sooner. I join with my colleagues throughout the arts and entertainment community in encouraging you to get vaccinated as soon as you possibly can. Here at RiverCenter, we thought it would be useful to share with audiences and patrons of the arts how our various institutions have been managing this past year, but most importantly, what to look forward to as we restart the arts. RiverCenter, Arts in the Spotlight, is a series of conversations focusing on how restarting our entertainment, art, and cultural organizations will look and what that means to our community. Let's start the conversation. Conversation today is with Carrie Beth Wallace, who is the founder and editor of The Columbusite here in Columbus, Georgia. Welcome. Thank you for spending time with us. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, it's good to sit down and chat with some folks about what the future might hold. But first, you are a vocalist. You're a product of the wonderful Schwab School of Music.
I am.
I want to hear more about that.
Okay, so I grew up in a metroplex. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and my parents were wonderful about always having us engaged in the arts from a very young age. I can't remember not going to multiple venues a year, and I'm very fortunate to have had that experience, and I think it shaped so much about why I majored in voice, why I came here, and then also just why I do what I do now. So I came to Columbus, Georgia in 2005 on a scholarship to sing, and I studied classical voice for 4 years and absolutely loved it. I was fortunate the end of my junior year, the summer between my junior and senior year, I was very lucky to get to go abroad and sing with an American company that did, it's called the American Institute of Musical Studies, or AIMS. We were in Graz, Austria for 8 weeks, and it was a dream. And my professor at the time, who was Earl Coleman, who has since retired, but I love Earl Coleman, he has definitely shaped my life, but he said, okay, you're going for the experience. You need to know if this is what you want to do. You will audition. If you get in, you will audition when you get there, right off the plane. I mean, we went to sleep, we got up, and we auditioned in a new time zone. It was the real experience, and that was why you went. We got college credit. I had 4 one-hour coachings a week in different languages. We had staging, all kinds of things, as if you were landing in a foreign country and staging an opera, basically. Yeah. And so he said, you will not get cast, you probably will not sing, you're 21 at the time, and he said, but you need to do this before you decide to perform forever. And so I went, and I was jet lagged and sang a B flat and just did what you do and thought, well, that was fun. I got, great experience. And the next few days I found out I had been cast, and so I was fortunate to sing with full orchestra in German for an Austrian audience, in a castle that had been bombed. So the whole performing arts venue is, it's like you're in a dungeon, but the box seats are the old cells. And then there's a retractable roof, and you just are looking out over the Alps. And it was like driving a Ferrari 100 miles an hour. I loved it. And I left the stage, and I thought, I can do this. I've just done this. But no one I love was here to see it. They'll get to see the video. They'll get to hear it. I had friends in the audience taking, shaky videos, before we all became videographers. And I called my parents, and I was like, thank you so much for making this happen. This is the best experience ever. I loved it. I know I can do it if I want to. And now I'm going to explore other things, because I know that this can be a choice, but I'm not ready at 21 to limit myself to just doing this forever. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Now I cheer on everybody else doing it, right? Yeah. So when I came back, I just had a really nerve-wracking and very wonderful conversation with Earl, and I said, here's where I am. I'm a family person. I love a big city. I love to travel, but I don't know that I want to spend the next 15 years of my life living out of a suitcase. I could do it, and maybe I will, but let's talk about other options. And so at that point was the point that Columbus State University had just opened the River Park campus. And so they hired me as a student downtown. I've always written. I've always loved to write. And they hired me as an arts student with a writing background to talk about the arts. And that was my first little unprofessional tiptoe into arts journalism. And so what happened is I fell in love with it. And I discovered that I could sing for the rest of my life. I just sang a wedding this weekend in town.
Cool.
I sing all the time at church. Would love to sing with orchestra again at some point when it's right, but I have little kids and it's hard to make rehearsals happen. And so anyways, I loved it, and I wrote for the paper for a year. And then fast forward about 8 or 9 years, we moved back. My husband finished his postgraduate work in Macon. We moved back home to Columbus, and I started writing for the Ledger. They called and said, hey, we're looking for someone to work on an arts magazine. I thought it was a contributor role. We had the guy over for literally blueberry cobbler on the back porch because I had a baby. And he said, so are you ready to edit this magazine? And I almost fell out of my chair. I said, what are you talking about, edit a magazine? And it was an editor position. So I've gone very quickly from performing on stage and really doing it and choosing to use my voice differently, if you will, to encourage this city and region to really fall in love with the arts and make a place for it in their lives.
Yeah, so you're successful on a couple, 2 or 3 different levels, and you've experienced that success. So,
well, it's kind.
And I think, well, I know that you're a person who folks are going to look up to and want to emulate and follow in your footsteps. What do you have a bit of advice for them that you would give them if somebody was in your position, kind of looking around and saying, what do I do with my talent?
It's interesting that you asked me that. I just had a similar question last week. I spoke to an applied leadership class at Brookstone. They just called and said, hey, we're interested in what you do. We're learning about different career paths. And my call to them, to those students or young people, and I think to the audience we're talking to here, would be to find something that you can't live without, beyond your family, beyond, your church or your community or whatever it is that you find connection in. And find the people that make that happen. And I would wager that the most fascinating professionals, whether they're doctors, administrators, teachers, anybody, performers, politicians, they all have a role in their lives for the arts. Mm-hmm. The arts play a role in their lives. And when I realized that, I thought, well, we need this. I need this as a human being. I want my children to grow up in a place where this is important. And so my call would be, whether it's the arts or not, if you're pursuing postgraduate work or if you're changing careers, you have to be willing to learn. I'm largely self-taught just by saying, yes, I will learn to do that. And that's a gift. That's an attitude. I mean, that's something that I'm very humbled by because I've had to learn when I get tired to stop and rest, especially this last year. Yeah. Being a workaholic is not always a great thing. It can be a good thing, but that performance degree transfers that way quickly for me. Yeah. So I would say take a break, look at what you're looking ahead to, find a way to make the arts a part of it, because if you don't, you're really missing out on a gift that we've been given to really express and process the human experience.
Yeah. You referenced this past year, and yes. I know the Columbusite has been in existence for 2 years.
We are about to have our fourth
anniversary
year. On June the 1st.
I am so sorry.
No.
Time flies.
No. It seems like 2 after this last year. It's been a little wild, but yes.
So what a year it's been.
Yes.
Tell us, how has, COVID has affected everyone. And I think sometimes people think in literature and writing, you just kind of go on, what's the big deal? But I don't think that's been the case.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell us.
So when everything hit and the world shut down in basically a weekend, as we've all experienced, I kind of knew quickly it was going to be for the long haul. We all kind of realized that very quickly. And by quickly, I don't mean overnight. I mean within 6 or 8 weeks, we were hearing these projections of a vaccine will take 15 to 18 months at best. That's the fastest, right? Where we were hearing all of these things. And because of our relationship with the Visitors Bureau, I was lucky enough, Peter Bowden was lucky enough to bring me, was kind enough
He was lucky
include me. No. He was kind. I was lucky. He was kind enough to bring me in to a lot of conversations, looking at the sentiment for travel, looking at conversations with information that he was able to get from the health department, which of course informed our messaging for visitors for this city. But I was just quickly. I feel like we all went back to school. We've laughed about that on calls, but it was not only are, the arts just stopped, performing arts stopped, but everyone involved in it has shared a loss. If you love the arts, it has been like watching someone or something you love just suffer and not being able to help at all, other than what we could do, which was to keep going.
Yeah.
As silly as that sounds. And so I talked to my staff. We had a Zoom call after hours. And I just said, okay, you're all in this like phenomenal, you're just a phenomenal group of women. I know you all have multiple skills. I'm looking at this hopefully very pragmatically, and I understand that for us to get back to a full publication, a digital platform that's reaching, tens of thousands of people depending on the event, it's gonna be a while. So you are not held to doing this with me. Yeah. I am going to keep going. If I was ever gonna stop, this is the time. If I was ever gonna take a break, but this is not the time.
Right.
And so every single one of them in a second said, no, we're in. What do you need? And we just kept going. And so sometimes that looked like 5 things we'd tell you over coffee if we could see you this week. And it was things like your educational programming at RiverCenter, just sharing those links. It was things like the Columbus Museum's virtual. It was even national things that were coming out of Broadway, any news that we could share with people, whether it was uplifting or sometimes not. We wanted to be a resource for people who were feeling the way that we were.
Yeah. I always like to ask this question on the first interviews we've done with folks. Is there a piece of music, a piece of verse or something that you have been returning to that kind of buoys you through all of this?
Yes. That's funny that you asked that. I have 2 answers.
Okay.
They're both classical music, which all of my friends that are watching this will laugh at, but they know. The first is Panis Angelicus.
Yes.
Which is something I have sung for decades, both as a choir member and a soloist, et cetera, et cetera. It's a beautiful piece of music. And in the shared trauma of everything about our lives just getting turned upside down globally, I had forgotten about it, which sounds silly. Of course I hadn't forgotten, but there's too many things going on. And we tuned in on Easter to Andrea Bocelli's Easter concert from Italy, just singing. And that was one of the pieces. And my kids, they thought we were still on spring break. This was early. This wasn't 6 weeks in, probably about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just sat in my chair in my leggings and sweatshirt like everybody else was doing on Easter and sobbed at the courage and the bravery of that man who sings all over the world all the time to just make this happen for the world. That was the first piece. And I've gone back to it just to remember that resilience. There really is a shared resilience in this. And that was the first moment I thought, this is leadership. This is what this looks like in service. The second is Claire de Lune, which I have loved my entire life. The house can be absolutely crazy and I can put it on and it's like a balm all the time.
Yeah. Well, now we know everybody can listen to those 2 pieces of music and be restored and refreshed.
No.
It's been a shock for our entire art and culture community, and I think we just need to acknowledge that, and we can't forget that. But we got about 2 minutes.
Okay.
What do we have to look forward to? What are you joyful about as a vaccine is available for us and our theaters are going to be populated again?
Yes, just being back together. I am such a people person, and as I said earlier, I think the arts bring us together. They bring out the best of us as human beings. They help us process the worst of us as human beings. And there's nothing like experiencing it in real time with people around you. And I understand it's all socially distanced. I'm vaccinated. I would encourage everyone else to get vaccinated. I think it's so crucial just for the safety of our entire world, but especially locally. But just being able to be back together, there's really nothing like it. And it makes me kind of weep to think about. I can't wait when we finally get the go-ahead, whatever that looks like from Dr. Fauci or World Health. I can't really picture what that's going to be. But when we get that, I can't wait to just have a block party and bring everybody in the arts together. No agenda, just connect again.
Yeah. I think that's something we all look forward to, and I think that day will come. I know it will.
I do too.
For now, we'll have these conversations 6 feet apart.
Great.
With the air circulating around us.
Yes.
And I want to thank you, Carrie, for joining us and being a part of this
so
project.
much.
And it is my pleasure to present to you a RiverCenter mask,
Wonderful.
which I hope you will wear with pride.
I will.
And please
Thank
take care of
you.
yourself.
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining this RiverCenter Arts in the Spotlight conversation. If you would like to suggest a topic, organization, or individual for us to include in these conversations, please contact us through our website, www.rivercenter.org. And finally, you are important to us. Please take care and get vaccinated as soon as you can. If we all do our part, we'll be together sooner to celebrate the entertainment, art, and culture that defines Columbus as a great place to live, work, and play. We look forward to continuing these conversations as we restart the arts in Columbus, Georgia.